It got real
I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Be proud of me.
I'm so proud. I did forget to ask my panelists to put their phones on silent.
Hey guys, put your phones on silent.
Ask everyone to do that right now.
Yeah, you too. Join us.
I bet.
I'm gonna go get my socks and my scarves.
How's everybody doing on this lovely Monday, final day of PAX West?
You guys are so energetic. I'm jealous.
Excellent.
I feel like the luckiest girl in the world that all of you guys decided to get up this early on the last day of a con to come hang out with us. I am narcoleptic. I know how hard you worked, and I'm so glad you're here.
Yes.
Co-signed.
Welcome to Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Dragons. We are so excited to have y'all here today. Before we jump in, I want to talk just very briefly about the nonprofit that helped make this panel possible. So how many of y'all have heard of Take This? Excellent. So Take This is the oldest mental health and games-focused nonprofit, serving both the games industry as well as the gaming community. Here at PAX, we have the Hope booth that's located in Bandland, where you can learn a little bit more about our mission, as well as the AFK room, which is intentionally the most boring room in the convention. So if you need a space that is a little bit darker and a little bit quieter and has some trained volunteers that can help kind of support you, that is the place to go. I would highly recommend it. Take This work is a very, very small nonprofit, so learning about us, knowing more, maybe going and buying one of the cool pins we have at the booth is always really helpful for us, and we really appreciate that. I would love to jump in and start with some introductions from our panelists, and I'm gonna start at Justin down at the end.
Hi everyone, my name is Justin Salazar. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist based in Washington. I'm at Respec Psych. I mainly work with individuals and couples. I use D&D sometimes in sessions. I got diagnosed with ADHD in 2020 during COVID, which I would highly not recommend getting an assessment during a global pandemic. It's not fun. And then I've been playing TTRPG since 2016.
Are we going down the line?
If you would
Sure.
like to, you can.
Cool. Hey everybody, my name is Quinn. I am an associate marriage and family therapist based out of California. So by the day I do therapy, and then by different times of the day I am an actual play streamer. I live stream all kinds of different TTRPGs in all kinds of different places. I've been playing TTRPGs for about 10 years, but the streaming is a lot newer. I've been streaming for like the past year. I got diagnosed with ADHD roughly 3 years ago. I don't actually remember the specifics, which tracks with the ADHD. And my pronouns, I use any pronouns. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, is it me now?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Lindsey Odom. I am not a therapist. I simply need one and have one. I am the chief of staff for the Anti-Boring Project, which is run and led by this fearless human over here. We joke that I am professional bestie, but we help make the world a little easier for ADHD people as best we can with the Anti-Planner. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 23, courtesy of Dani Donovan, and her content and education. And I also work with an organization called Birds of Paradise, which is actually a trading card game organization that aims to uplift marginalized player voices in the trading card gaming community. I started playing D&D just a couple of years ago when my then crush, now turned partner's D&D group let me listen in on a session, and after the end of the session, his entire group went to him and was like, so she's making a character, right? Like, she's gonna play now. So I made a barbarian because I wasn't learning 9 levels of spells at one time, and the rest is history.
Love that. I am Dani Donovan. Lindsey and I are based out of Atlanta. My pronouns are she, her. So I am the creator, self-publisher of the Anti-Planner, How to Get Shit Done When You Don't Feel Like It, which is like an activity book for procrastinators and people with ADHD. And then I am, accidental CEO of the Anti-Boring Project. It turns out if you self-publish your own thing and then run the entire production line, that you have to have like a company and stuff, I guess. I have been playing TTRPGs for, like 9 years. I got my ADHD diagnosis not in 3rd or 5th grade when my mom asked my teachers, do you think she could have ADHD? And they said, well, she's too smart. And, well, she's doing fine in school, so I think she's okay. Not then, not till my freshman year of college when I went to go talk to someone about depression, and she heard how fast I was like bouncing between topics and like kept apologizing and stuff. And she's like, has anyone talked to you about ADHD? And I remember being like, no. Like I still had that stigma. And then she disclosed to me that she had it, and it really like helped me to kind of like understand, I guess, that my preconceived notions of what ADHD looked like were seriously outdated. And I'm glad that happened, because now I get to be here with these wonderful people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Y'all might have noticed that Quinn is missing from that slide, and that is my fault. Quinn's been here the whole time, but my computer and I have had a series of disagreements over the last couple of days. So sorry about that. But I am Dr. Elizabeth Kilmer. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist here in the state of Washington. I work with Take This, as I mentioned earlier. I also am with Respec Psychological Services, which is a mental health clinic that serves anybody located in the state of Washington. We do telehealth services. We focus largely around ADHD and autism, people who are gamers or work in games or tech industry. We also do a lot of work with people in kind of the LGBTQ community, and we offer individual therapy, family and couples counseling, as well as assessment and diagnostic services. We see a lot of people whose diagnoses were missed earlier in life, so a lot of that late diagnosis, ADHD and autism, especially those who have maybe been to providers that don't specialize in that and have been told, no, you did well in school. Or like, oh, you have like friends though, so you definitely can't be autistic.
You're like not that big of a problem. You're only like a moderately annoying person.
Yeah. So that's what I do. I was diagnosed at the age of 12 because my brother and I were both really annoying and bouncing off the walls. And luckily for us, I guess, that being good at school was offset by how no one and no amount of sports could make us tired. But honestly, it wasn't until graduate school that I learned more about some of the social impacts of ADHD. And I learned more about that, like, being productive all the time and being super, super busy was actually a coping mechanism that I was using that then led to lots and lots of burnout and exhaustion. So I'm so excited to be here with this group of people today. And I've done this panel a couple of times before. Has anybody been to this panel before? Excellent.
Hey, besties.
So as you can see, we have some new panelists. We also changed the entire structure of this panel about 10 minutes before y'all all were let into the theater today.
I'm sure you're shocked by this.
Yeah.
Wait, we changed things?
So we all collectively decided that we were going to start off with the bummer topics and then move to some of the more practical solutions. I think I've been asked questions before about, like, well, why do you talk about the, oh, I didn't fit in well stories? Because those make people sad. And they do. But I don't know about y'all, and you can give me feedback after the panel, please do. I think it's sometimes important to talk about the times in which, like, we felt alone and we felt like we didn't fit. Because when we are in those spaces, we can feel like we're the only ones. So we're gonna tell just a couple of those stories of times in which, like, we weren't a good fit with a group, or we felt like we didn't belong. And then we'll talk much more about stories around belonging and accessibility. Dani, do you wanna kick us off?
Sure. So my first experience playing a TTRPG was, like back in 2016. I tried like Pathfinder, and so I had like started. The DM was one of my husband's coworkers, and so we were really excited. I, built this like whole character, like backstory, did the whole thing, and kind of like came in not fully knowing what to expect, but as we played, I found that the DM was very, very much like not just railroady, but like punishing anything that felt like deviations or like fun, or like I would say like impulsive, like creative. We were walking and there was like a snow drift, and Josh was like, my husband was like, I jump at this, jump headfirst into the snow drift, and he was like, you hit a rock, -1 health. And I was like,
You
oh
rolled
my
a one
God.
immediately by existing in my game. How dare you?
Yeah, and so it was just really challenging because we wanted to have more, I guess, like creativity, and that we had not really talked about what sort of game that he wanted to run. And so we ended up creating like a second secret game with everybody and a different DM. We were still doing this one. It's not like we completely abandoned it, but we wanted to have a second game that was more kind of like what was in line with what we wanted. And then he found out that we were doing a second game and got really, really mad and stopped being friends with us, which, like, you know what, is okay,
Good.
I think. Like, but ultimately that was sort of my first introduction to even recognizing that there are situations where what you want and what someone else wants can like completely kind of clash playstyle wise.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think my first experience with D&D was pretty similar. It was like a very big group of people also, which was kind of problematic. It was my freshman year of college, so also I think about 2016. And they were trying to jam a group with just like 9 people in it. It was just like, it was inherently just a bad idea. They needed to get more DMs or something, and I was like interested and brought along and didn't really know what I was doing, and it definitely felt like it was a group of a lot of cis guys who really wanted to maybe play like Warhammer and were playing D&D instead, so it was very, very combat focused, and I didn't know what I was doing, and because I didn't know what I was doing, I did the same, like, I'm gonna play a character that feels really easy, I don't wanna learn spells, that looks incredibly complicated, but then my turn took like, you know, a minute, because it was like, well, I roll and I hit things twice, and then everybody else's turn took an hour and a half, and I'm just sitting there like, well, I'm super bored, this is not very fun, and
You end up feeling like set decoration.
yeah, you're just like, okay, cool, I'll just sit here quietly in the corner, and then when it would be my turn, I remember distinctly a couple of times, people trying to, I don't know if they were trying to be helpful, but it felt very talking over, like trying to tell me what my character was supposed to be doing. And I was like, I feel like I'm just supposed to hit things. I don't know, this feels like you're making this way too complicated. And I also, like, I had a backstory. I had things for my character that I wanted to come up that just didn't. Admittedly, I also played with that group, I think, twice before I was like, you know what, this isn't fun, and I'm never gonna play with them again, which is a great way to get out of a bad situation, is just like, you know what, I don't have time for this. And then thankfully I got invited to a much better group later in college that was still big, but split it much, much better.
Yeah.
Guys, we can do so much better. Like, I'm just gonna take a moment talking to my boys. For the love of God, don't try to autopilot people's characters that they built themselves. They built them themselves. They're probably intelligent enough to play their own thing. Sorry. Taking a moment. God damn it, I'm so sorry. My first D&D character was a fighter that was basically, they were building their spellcasters, and I made a genogram because I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing things, apparently. My first negative experience with TTRPGs, it was a work game, and my coworker was like, hey, you should play with my partner. My partner was probably ADHD or other neurospicy things, but was not diagnosed, which meant not organized, really frustrating. And as an ADHD person who's undiagnosed at this point, I'm like, I need to know everything so that I can have all the internal dialogue things before I show up, so I'm not a problem. And the thing what kind of pushed me over the edge was, for some random bits, they felt like, hey, we should steal the new player's stuff. And like all the cool equipment that we got and all those things, and it was very, like, lack of a better term, angle shooty of like, you should have looked into the box. I'm like, I don't know what the box is. What box? So, yeah, I feel so bad about yours. That's awful.
Bad for you too.
Well, I mean, like, that's horrid. 9 people? That's, no, sorry.
Well,
Rabbit
you know
hole.
what? College freshmen don't know what they're doing ever, so I give them a little bit of grace, but.
I do want to comment, though, really quickly, that one of the things that I have noticed that has been a challenge for me is, like, knowing off the bat if people want to play. Like, I love story.
Yeah.
And I can do combat, and I will do combat, and I didn't realize going into a lot of games that, like, they primarily wanted a combat-focused game. And so that's one of the, I think, biggest challenges that I run into, again, is, like, that lack of communication about what type of game that people want to play, because especially for different things like that where your expectations might be different from the reality.
Yeah, I think that that's a really nice transition into talking about how do you find a table that's a good fit, right? I agree that if you want to be playing Warhammer instead of D&D, you should probably play Warhammer. I don't
many
have
local games.
any interest in playing Warhammer personally. But I do like when people make the minis look like Sailor Moon characters. That is very fun.
I just want to paint minis. I just want to paint minis.
I am
really
solely
compelling.
responsible for Elizabeth Kilmer's Instagram being Sailor Moon,
just
Warhammer Insta
Yeah,
things
it's
because I randomly will get a message being like, here's another one.
Yeah, they're fun. And so let's talk a little bit about how you find that group, right? When we are thinking about finding a group that is a good fit for us, we're not looking at other groups and going like, necessarily going like, oh, well, you want to have a really rules as written, combat focused group, that's a bad group. No, like that, there are so many different ways to get to play TTRPGs, and most of them are valid. I'm sure there are some that are not, but most of them are valid. And so that means that we have to figure out what is that group that is going to be a good fit for us, which often means having explicit conversations about the level of storytelling, how much we want to focus on the rules, how much we're going to be paying attention to the like little grid, either virtually or in person, in terms of how far away people are when we're in combat. Are we taking all of these rules in? Are we making combat a little bit more simple? What are the things that y'all have found the most crucial to talk about in a session 0 or before you start playing?
I mean, I can jump in on this a little bit, especially because I jumped in on a campaign that had already been running for 2 years. And I was the 5th person that got brought into it. And like I said, I was not learning 9 levels worth of spells at one time. I'm like, no. But what I did want was a character that was funny and silly, because I wanted to be able to get to know the group of people I was playing with. Because I had a crush on the guy who was running the game, and I wanted to be friends with his friends. That worked out fabulously, by the way. We are now dating, and all of his friends are awesome. But I built a character that was a tabaxi barbarian, and she's based on the smallest cat in the world, the African black-footed wildcat, which has the highest kill count per capita of any wildcat on the planet. She was 18 inches tall. She weighed 4 pounds. She had a scale mail cloak. The way that we got accessibility in that group and got integration into that group, and I knew that they were going to be able to help me learn D&D, is because they all gave me suggestions on how I could use my barbarians, like powers and feats and what stuff I didn't understand yet, to pair with things that they were doing, so that all of their turns also brought Jira into whatever they were doing. One of our players had the spell catapult. I was a cat. Scale mail cloak. I rolled up in my cloak, and they used catapult to yeet me at whatever the big bad was, and then I just went to town until it was everybody else's turn. It worked great.
That's awesome. So it sounds like part of this for you was this group really made an intentional effort, a group that was already formed, made an intentional effort to go back and have that kind of session 0 conversation again, but also really actively took steps to say like, hey, we want you here and we want your character here, and how can we work together to make sure that we're cohesive as a team?
Yeah. Even so far as in situations where like, because we're playing 5e, and you do have movement speed, and because I decided to be a tiny murder ball, I did not move as quickly as the rest of the group. So I had a goat. They gave me a goat figurine that I could summon, and I rode a goat around when we needed to travel quickly so that my movement speed was the same as everybody else's.
You're just a murder cat on a goat.
Yes.
Just a little Chucky Snappy.
I love that instead of just going, oh, you'll just ride on one of our shoulders, they went, no, we want to make sure you have the autonomy to move wherever you want.
Yes.
So goat.
Yes.
Excellent.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
As far as like finding, a good fit, I feel like I've tried a few different systems, and one of the things that I really enjoyed was a one-shot that you ran, Alice is Missing, and so that was my first and only experience doing a one-shot, and I really liked it, and I wanted to do more of them. But being able to find something that fit into my life, because I will say that for so many, like I've never finished a campaign, right? Because getting a bunch of adults who have lives and jobs and kids and obligations to get together, especially because I play in person. And so being able to like make that happen and get that closure, has always been challenging. And then like having people who kind of like know that and had learned that about me and being able to suggest like, hey, is this something that you'd want to try? And then being able to like have so much fun, get so engaged in something that really, I would say, worked around my actual life that could give me that like super fun experience without it turning into something that I poured a bunch of time and effort into, and then stopped after 5 sessions, which is my unfortunate MO.
How many of our characters have been killed in that exact sequence? I have 4.
I've never died.
No. But more of like the community is like, oh, we don't get to play anymore because of scheduling and stuff like that. Where I'm like, I'm super excited about this character, and then we don't play anymore, and it just like.
Oh, 2, twice.
Yeah, but 4.
Yeah, I think it's happened to me about twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love one-shots. I think they're great. I am also just like so much more willing to sign up for something that I can like agree to go to one time, or like maybe 2 or 3, as opposed to a whole bunch, especially when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. It starts to feel like an obligation instead of a thing that is fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we need to engage in our hobbies even when they don't feel fun sometimes. But having that knowledge for me, going like, okay, if this is more than 3 sessions long and I'm currently overwhelmed with other responsibilities, I'm going to start to like resent or dread this. And you don't want to resent or dread playing TTRPGs.
Yeah.
That's no fun for anybody. So yeah. Also, Alice is Missing is phenomenal. It's like a texting-based TTRPG one-shot. Highly recommend.
I got so like, yeah, you have like a group chat and you change everybody's names to be the characters' names. And the whole thing, yeah, is participating through group chat. And it got so like thrilling, and I got so like legitimately like emotionally into it that I was texting from like my character was like in a closet and like hiding from something scary, and I was like crying. I was like crying in real life in my office by myself on my phone, and I'm like, I cannot believe that like something that like technically like isn't real is like getting to give me this like wonderful, deep, rich emotional experience.
So speaking of that deep, rich emotional experience, right? And in that space, part of the reason that you were like, that was fun for you instead of like incredibly distressing, is that you have kind of tools to manage, right? Like when things get really intense in games or when things get kind of uncomfortable in games, how do y'all kind of talk to your tables? How do you communicate around like, oh, it felt like we were joking, but all of a sudden that hit too hard, or things like that?
I mean, that just happened in my group like 3 weeks ago, so I can definitely talk about that. My home group, we play together all the time. Everybody has ADHD, autism, something. And we have definitely had to like learn how to have those conversations, and not always even in the moment. Like actually in that group, it got so overwhelming for one of the people that they kind of just were too checked out that we tried to start having a conversation about it. We're like, you know what? We all know each other, we all talk regularly. We don't have to do this right now. We can change the mood, like let's lighten the vibe and just turn it, let's just make sure we have a nice conclusion, we wrap things up, and we will come back and talk about this tomorrow when everyone has slept and eaten and taken care of themselves. Yeah. So depending, if that is a group that you like play with regularly, it doesn't have to be an immediate conversation, it can be something that happens later. And then just trying to introduce different tools for the group to have different ways of signaling. Like, again, sometimes you're too overwhelmed to even like say that you're overwhelmed. And so signaling different check-ins. One thing that I have now is I have little just 3x5 cards that I've colored on in different colors. So it's like my green 3x5 card, the yellow one, the red one that you hopefully never have to use because that's like, stop, I'm too much. But sometimes just like I will throw up, I mean, I've just started doing this very recently, but kind of like throw up the green card as just a, hey, everybody good? And another version of that, like it's based off the X and O cards, which I feel like everybody talks about the X card, but doesn't talk about that there are other cards, right? Like the X card is when you've gone too far, but the N card, or that yellow, is meant to be like, hang on, we're approaching too far, let's maybe slow it down. And the O is meant to be that, just like, hey, let's check in, let's make sure everybody is okay. If you notice someone's eyes going kind of hazy, or you notice someone like starting to lean back, Or maybe, we kind of talked about this beforehand, like you're playing a virtual game and someone turns their camera off and you want to check on them and make sure they're okay. Kind of spreading the responsibility through the group of we all check in on each other and we all make sure as best we can that everybody is okay, along with obviously for yourself if you're able and willing to communicate that, being like, hey, can we take 5? Like, I need a break, I need to get up, I need to move around. I'm currently squishing a really fun D20 squishy toy that my friend gave me that can be a really nice, like, calming, grounding thing. I love that it's a D&D themed and quiet. Doesn't make any noise, unlike playing with my dice, which I do regularly at my table. And
Yeah,
clicky clackies are fun, but clicky clackies are loud.
I'm gonna need me one of those.
As the person who has had to, turn the camera off, right, the emotional dysregulation, because it was my first time playing virtually with a group that I was used to playing in person with, and I was feeling not just like talked over, but like could not get, I would say, a word in edgewise, and that I had felt so much like my character, was like an investigative, like a little, like 12-year-old Sherlock Holmes girl, which and people are like, oh, like Enola Holmes. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And they're like, oh, the thing that you made is already a thing. And I'm like, cool. But I wanted to like investigate and like talk to people and like, learn stuff. And I was with a group that just wanted to go in and murder everybody immediately. And so it just like I wasn't getting to do what I set my whole character like up to do. And I repeatedly was trying to like ask for what I needed, which is like, hey, can I at least talk to them before you murder them? So we can get some information. No, and I, wasn't getting that, and it had gotten to the point where I was trying to speak up, and it just wasn't working. And I, put myself on mute, which is like the first kind of thing, and then and then the camera off, and then genuinely like got so emotionally dysregulated I just like had to shut my laptop. I was like, I gotta go, and like shut my laptop. And like I have never gotten to that point before, but like it really kind of like drilled the point home. And then like a week later I was like, hey, can we meet up? And we got dinner, and I was able to say, hey, this is how I've been feeling, and went over what I just said, that like feeling talked over and feeling like I don't get to do what my character said. And they were like, okay, how many, pretty much trying to like come to a conclusion of like what would make you feel most comfortable. How do you want to approach when we go into talk to people, so that we aren't like stepping on your toes constantly.
I feel like that's where Rule 0 conversations need to happen, or wrong game. Session 0, Rule 0 is Commander. But like having that conversation as a DM where it's like, hey, this is what I'm hoping to play. Players, what are you hoping to play? Having that conversation where it's like, we want to be murder hobos. Great, be murder hobos. Maybe people don't want to play that game, but also I want to be a detective. Let them do that. So I think that's really important, especially with like, we don't know who's playing and what they're going through.
Yeah, a lot of times we don't even get to a session 0 in our group, and I fully recognize I'm extremely fortunate because I have a group in which we have built an incredible level of trust amongst each other and with our DM, who is also my partner at this point, that we all care very, very much about making sure everybody is comfortable and happy. And even before we get to the like, all right, here's the plan for going into our first session, we build our characters together. Like we will spend a few hours on Discord and we all hop into the Charactermancer with our ideas and figure out what works. And our DM will like advise us on the way that like a character might work better this way or that way. And we have really in-depth conversations about like, what is the track that we want to follow when we're playing this game? And he's extraordinarily good about like knowing when something is going this direction, and this person mentioned 6 months ago that they might have an issue about blank thing, so we're gonna go around it and not directly past it. And it's really helpful for us to have the opportunity to build those backstories and those characters together as opposed to being siloed off when we're doing it, so that we know kind of what is going to work with everybody's goals in the game at the same time. And that has been really, really helpful, not just for me learning mechanically how to play D&D, but also for me feeling more comfortable actually interacting and participating in the game. Because we finished the Barbarian campaign, and I'm playing a cleric now. I'm playing effectively an autistic jackalope cleric who is trying to figure out why he is the way that he is in Candlekeep. And my group helped me figure out how I wanted to build it, and then another one in our group and I have paired off so that I don't have to talk as much in sessions because I get extremely uncomfortable trying to actually role play. I just want to be like, my character does this, or I think he would say that. I don't want to do the character, I want to deliver the character. And another player in our group got with me and was like, we can just pair up and I'll do all of the aura farming next to you and talk, and you can just hang out and be menacing and tall in the background and know things. I'm like, that sounds perfect. I want that all the time.
That is my favorite type of character to play. It was the same as yours. My buddy's also doing that, of like, I will be the face. You just be the muscle over there and be brooding. That's fine.
Yes.
Because I don't know this game system we're playing.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So you guys just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah. I'm like, please don't make me talk. I am more than happy to participate in the game, but I don't want to have to talk to anybody.
Quinn, you made a really good point earlier around some of the things that you did to help kind of spread out the responsibility of safety. And I think we all know that we don't have enough GMs in the world, right? Like, we need more of them. If you've been thinking about maybe trying to GM, please do it. Even if you're bad, it will still be better than not having GMs.
I want to try, but I'm so scared.
Oh, great.
So
We'll do a one-shot together.
I want to DM magical kitties.
Okay, great.
I want to run a game of magical
We're gonna make
kitties.
it happen. So, one of the things that can be really challenging as a GM is you are responsible for the world, you are responsible for setting up the story, but you're also responsible for the safety at the table. And to some extent, that is not going to go away because you do have a little bit more kind of like power in this social hierarchy that is the table. But it is really important to be able to kind of spread out some of those responsibilities where we can. And so I'd like to speak, for people to speak first, for like as a player, what are some of the things that you do to kind of accommodate yourself at the table or help to support your fellow players?
Can I start?
Yes,
Because it's
you can
silly.
go first.
I'm doing it right now. I grabbed a second chair and I put it on top of my first chair because I'm very short and I knew that if I only had one chair, my shoulders were going to hurt by the end of the time we were playing. So I surround myself with physical objects and tools that make it possible for me to be comfortable while I'm playing so I can pay attention.
One of the reasons why I was interested in being, an investigative, like, detective was because I had a reason, an excuse to literally type, like, pretty much every single thing that happened on my iPad, and have like this.
You are a consummate note taker. That
Yes,
is true.
because my ADHD working memory is. So I have found that taking, diligent notes, especially because the crowds that I play with end up often being full of people with ADHD, and we've got space between someone who's on vacation. Now we've had 3 weeks, and nobody remembers what happened. And so being able to have a person who's able to kind of come back and like look through my stuff and summarize it for people so that we can all remember kind of quickly where we actually are, as well as when we run into somebody later on and I'm like, wait, let me double check that, and okay, I've got this, we have interacted with this person before and maybe we don't do that because this happened. So I guess being able to accommodate and be the resident what's the word I'm looking
Note
for?
taker?
Note taker.
Yeah, I know. There was like
Historian?
a cooler
Lore
word.
keeper.
Lore keeper.
Who's the person who is a stenographer? That was what I think I was going for.
In the end, we appreciate you so much because as someone who sucks at notes,
Yeah.
and goes, hey, what did we do last week? And having the equivalent Dani person at the table is just so nice, but also like making sure like I know my stuff in the sense of I'm not being a burden to others. Is a
Invite
thing
me to your group. I will take notes.
There's so many
Done.
ways to take notes, though. Like my thing, I love.
I get bored.
You have to take notes in different ways. It's the
still get bored.
novelty. Like one of the first campaigns I didn't take notes at all during the campaign, but about partway in through the week, I wrote in character journal entries as my character.
I love
Okay.
that.
And like,
oh my
it
God.
felt fun, right? Like it felt like I was getting back into the mindset of the character.
Fair. You
It
win.
wasn't necessarily like notes. It wasn't like I was writing down every NPC. I was writing it from my character's perspective. Admittedly, he was a hot bisexual mess. Most of the notes were about how he had a major crush on one of the other PCs and was like lost in thought. But it helped me to remember the game because again, I was like putting myself back into the character.
Yeah.
On like we played on like the weekend and it was a Wednesday and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back
create a
into the
working memory.
mindset. Yeah, be creative with it. So like that was my notes. My current game that I'm playing, we do our notes collaboratively. So we're playing virtually, we're in a Discord and we have a channel in the Discord where whenever something happens, one of us pops in and just types a quick sentence of like, interacted with so-and-so, this is how it went. So it's again, not on one person to keep all the notes. We do it together and like it becomes a joint thing. For my most recent streamed campaign, I didn't necessarily keep notes. My character was a very like investigative character and sometimes I maybe go a little overboard. I bought a corkboard and red string and I made a like conspiracy theory.
Yes, you
that
did.
requires a high five.
You can find pictures of it, it's on the internet, it was great, and I like kept track of plot threads by literally threading them together. And it, you know, I took like sticky notes to write character names on it, so I think a lot of times when we think about note-taking, we do think about it as a like, I don't know, like a dry, boring, like, okay, after the session, I'm gonna do a write-up, like, but there are so many different creative ways to take notes that you think you can get more into as opposed to just like, well, here's a session summary, or again, here's like me, one person, making my own entire notes for,
I'm 100% treating these as therapy notes versus what you were doing, which is way more fun.
Yeah, you
And
gotta do
I-
it fun. Make it fun, make it novel. And again, I don't think I've ever necessarily repeated the same way of doing notes per campaign. Like I base it on the character that I'm playing, you know, what I think that character would do, and yeah, just like what is gonna make me actually do it versus like, yeah, if you don't wanna take notes, don't take those kind of notes.
I'm 100% stealing your journal entry idea.
Yep.
That is
I had so much fun with that.
Jerem.
I go
all
back
the way
and
down.
reread it sometimes. It's great. So it makes me laugh.
But also, can I possibly change your life here in this moment? So two things. If you play virtually and you play using Discord as a voice channel, you need something called Craig.
Craig, yeah.
Craig will record individual audio streams for every person that is in your D&D like group talking over the course of you doing your campaign. It is free. It will record all of it. 24 hours later, you can go to their website, you can download all of your audio, you can have one that's smashed together, or you can have all of the individual threads. Craig is incredible to go back and re-listen to what was happening, or if you want to dump it into something that'll transcribe it into text, amazing, do that too. Second thing that's gonna change your life, you're taking your individual notes in your Discord channel, which, perfect, if you love that, keep it. Lorefrog is the other thing that I think you need. Lorefrog is essentially a TTRPG cooperative note-taking wiki system. So you can create a campaign in Lorefrog, and then inside of that campaign,
Does it have a search function?
What?
Does it have a search function?
It does have a search function,
Sold.
and it also has tags, so you can tag NPC characters as you meet them. You can tag places, you can tag like religion types, so like anything that you would use in a D&D campaign, there's almost certainly a tag for it, and when you click on that tag, it'll show you everything that's attached to that tag so far that you've done in the campaign. So we record our sessions with Craig. I take notes in Lorefrog. And the way I take notes is I'm basically writing a book as we go through our campaign. The Craig recordings are there for people who are looking for a specific thing that happened. The actual written notes are there so that we can click the backlinks and see who's talked to who and who's connected, and also read the fantasy novel that I'm writing.
Yeah, I was afraid of sounding obsessive because I did record and write up a novelization of an entire campaign.
You'll notice I pulled out 5 pens and an eraser in front of me for this panel, and I still have all this. We can obsess together.
Okay.
I have a quick question for Elizabeth because I am curious. Do you have any sort of like different ways other than note-taking that you see people delegating like responsibilities in a campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think note-taking is great for sure. Part of what I will do in some of my groups is and this is going to be very dependent on like the things that you're good at. So I'm a therapist. I run a lot of therapeutic D&D and other TTRPG games. I train a lot of people to do it. I'm also lucky enough to have a lot of lore scholars in a lot of my groups, meaning people who have read all of the books and could probably tell you on what page different rules are. I am not that person. I have read enough of the books to know what I need to know to run a good game. And I don't care about a lot of the specifics. But I often play with people who care about a lot of the specifics, right? And especially in a work context, that is totally appropriate and very fine. I want my clients to show up. And if they deeply care about all of the rules and where they are, like we can make space for that in the game. And so being able to rely on those rules scholars is really helpful. Some of it can also be around the character creation process, right? You might have a character that is bad at remembering things. You might have a character that is really impulsive. When I am playing for fun, my characters are so impulsive and they are not helpful. I am so helpful. I'm so helpful all the time, everywhere in my life. I'm a very good logistics person.
Can't help it.
I can't help it. It is impulsive. I'm working on it. I'm working on being less helpful. And so in a lot of my games, one of my very favorite characters is a storm domain cleric. And when they meet a new group, they will hand out a couple of health potions and go, "You're going to need these because I don't know those kinds of spells." And yeah, she has stabby lightning daggers and one healing spell that you better hope she remembered a spell slot for.
I love this with my whole soul.
Yeah, and I think that's the space in terms of like, we can talk about some of the logistics piece and the communication pieces, and those are so important. Like, please do think about session zeros, think about like consent checklists, think about how to have those direct communications. But one of the reasons that we use TTRPGs in therapy is because they create a safer space for us to get to practice social skills, right? If you are worried about being direct, try maybe building a character that is a little bit more direct, or getting to lean into some of those things that you might have a little bit of shame around. I have some shame around the impulsivity that comes with my ADHD. I know that in some ways that impulsivity and that forgetfulness is what led me to not paying very close attention my first year of grad school about how many classes we were supposed to take when. And so I overloaded my schedule, but it meant I graduated a year early. That's awesome. But also that impulsivity has caused problems and has lost me friendships. And so having a space to get to kind of practice that, having a space, not being less impulsive, although I could do that also, but having a space to get to practice being impulsive and having it make awesome stories has been really helpful for me in terms of kind of navigating some of that shame.
I think that you touched on something that relates to being able to like explore aspects of your identity that you might not get to do in real life. So I am a tragic bisexual who found out after I was married to my very wonderful husband. But like being able to explore different aspects of intersectionality, of like being queer and being able to play as a character who can like role play as being real into chicks, right? And having other people in the group where like our characters might be like flirting, and like that's not really an aspect of my identity that I really get to like bring out in real life. But to be able to feel safe to like explore the identity through role play, and I'd be curious on like other elements of intersectionality, but like I know that that's been a really big thing for me.
One of my favorite things as a clinician to do with couples is have both partners, or if there's multiple partners in the relationship, have everybody involved, make a character sheet, and then make a character sheet for their partner, and using it as a narrative tool to be like, cool, if you were a party working together, how would you do the dishes? How would you do these things? What do these fights look like? How would the barbarian fighter work together to do this thing? And I feel like D&D or TTRPGs in general does a really lovely thing of giving you permission to do the thing that you believe that you stink at because it's not you doing it.
Yeah. I am practicing unmasking in my D&D sessions now in this new campaign, because I very recently was told, like, yes, you're allowed to say that you're autistic. You are allowed to learn about autism. we've rubber stamped you, go forth and learn things.
Yeah.
And so I made a jackalope cleric, Paragon technically, but he's got antlers because he's badass. And I'm using that character to practice having flat affect and like all of the things where I'm like, I feel like I have to be, I'm so bubbly and I'm so compassionate and I'm like, I'm the mom friend, I'm gonna take care of you, I'm gonna make everything be okay. And in this campaign, ironically, I picked a cleric, which is supposed to be a healer. But I've got the healing spells that are on deck, but really I'm just like observing. I get to be the character who is knowing what's going on, but doesn't feel compelled to do something about it all of the time forever. And that's really like calming and relaxing, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's weird.
It's a great example.
It's weird.
We've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure that y'all know that we are going to leave some time for questions. So if you have questions, maybe take a second and write those down. I want to keep it to questions and not stories. If you have slightly longer stories, we will be out, or more questions we don't have time to get to, we will be out as far away from the doors as the enforcers tell us we are supposed to be. I'm getting some thumbs up in the back. We try so hard to follow instructions so that they invite us back, but we do want to hear questions and stories afterwards. So if you have some questions, go ahead and be thinking about those now. The question that I would like to kind of end for our panelists on is if you could give a piece of advice to GMs about how to make their table more inclusive or accepting or a better space for ADHD individuals or people in general, what is that advice that you would give?
I can start real quick. Telling your players of how long the game's gonna be. I feel like the accidental, hey, this is a 7-hour game, I will die, and I will not be involved in your game mentally, but I will physically be there. But I think clarity of that, planning lunch breaks, planning those type of things for like any accommodations. So that's kind of my big things is like have a communication.
Yeah, and I think we've hit on that a lot, like the communication and the expectations, right? I think, not every game and not every group and not every like system is for every person, right? So there's a level of like knowing yourself and knowing what you are interested in doing, but also having really clear expectation conversation. And I think that's where like, sometimes I think as the GM, right, you can get very focused in like, well, it's about the players, it's about like creating the experience for the players. As the GM, if you have expectations in a direction, I think sometimes GMs get very worried about like railroading, at least I do. I'm like, I never want to railroad my players, but I do have a kind of idea in mind of an overarching story, which is an important thing to have as a GM. And it's okay to communicate that to your players, and it's helpful to communicate that to your players so that they know the expectations right at the get-go. Again, is this going to be combat? Is this going to be investigation? Is it going to be riddles? Is it going to be role play? And making sure that everyone is on that same page through either just like informal conversations, part of your session. Yeah, you can Google it. It's on the internet. That's what the internet's for. And then the other point that was in my brain that I also momentarily forgot about because of the ADHD was, hang on, I'll find it.
We can.
Or you can go for a minute. And I can
we can find it later.
Do you want me to
find it
vamp
later
for a second while you think about what it is?
I can find it later. It's fine.
Okay,
You can go.
so I have two, I have like halvesies. I have a real world one, which is our RDM / my partner knows that usually 9 p.m. is about the first time of day I've eaten anything ever, because I'm really bad at that. So we are supposed to meet up at like 7:30 or 8 to start our game. We usually meet up around 7:30 and spend the first hour eating together. Everybody is making dinner, everybody's grabbing tea, everybody's getting a drink, the snacks or whatever. The beginning of our D&D session is the one time that all of us neurodivergent crew who are the players meet up with our not neurodivergent GM who is like, have you eaten today? And making sure that we all have like snacks and drinks before we start is able to give him the opportunity to have players who are more engaged and happier and less likely to be grumpy or distracted or brain foggy or whatever because we have calories in our body. What a concept. And then the other thing that he does for us on a regular basis is check in every 3 or 4 sessions about how we are feeling about the direction of the campaign.
That's lovely.
We're running a pretty complicated one right now where we have kids on bikes for some of the sessions, and we're doing them in Spelljammer area, and then we're doing 5e Swords and Sorcery. 5e Swords and Sorcery is in the past, kids on bikes is in the future, and we're converging in the middle with a mystery that's being solved on both ends. So he checks in with us regularly to make sure that we're still feeling good about the path that we are taking, and if there's anything we want to change, anything that needs to be added, if we want to do anything with our characters. And it helps me feel like I always will know what is going on, and we're not trapped into anything that we didn't realize we were doing, because it's not just the first rule 0 or the first session 0. He does those every 3 or 4 sessions to make sure we're all still on the right path for each other.
Did you remember your thing?
Go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this as short as I can because I know that we still want to do Q&A and stuff. I was gonna say that one of the challenges that I have, again, since our like ADHD crew attracts ADHD crews, and having like a ADHD DM also, is that often like games stretch out and become so much longer. Like we end up getting like an hour and a half of playtime because we're like distracted the whole other like 5 hours. And so again, like scheduling some time, like for your snacks, but like scheduling some time at the beginning for people to be late.
Yes.
For people to be late.
We're all adults with jobs.
And we forget to be on time.
And for people to, you know, catch up who haven't seen each other, for people to get their yayas out, and like scheduling that space, and then having like a, hey guys, like literally we are starting at this time. And then being able to keep people on track in a couple different ways, where we have found, you know, it helpful to be out of character, like putting your hand like this, right? And like, okay, this is how we're going to talk when we're out of character, because it makes sure that people don't stay out of character for long periods of time on accident, because you're holding your hand like this the whole time.
I can only do that for like 17 seconds.
You just
before
go,
I
you just
pass
put your
out.
I
hand
feel
on
like I'm
it
just
like
slowly just get droopier and droopier and just like, I'm napping now.
I'm a Potts chicken until I'm on the floor.
And so being
calling
able
it that
to have a signal like that, but like I think that signals are really important for open communication, yes. But we've got various ones that even like Lindsey and I use, but where we go like wee when it's like, hey, we are back on track and let's bring it back.
Yeah.
And that's like a non-judgmental way that like everybody knows, okay, that's what this means, and we don't have to have like an awkward conversation of trying to get everybody back on track and like making someone feel ashamed, because we know that, as well as you might have seen Lindsey going like this, which is a signal that I use a lot, as well as people in my life now, for, hey, I have something to say, like finish what you're talking about, but I've got something to say when you're done. And it can be extremely helpful for especially like introverts, when extroverts have a tendency to, like myself, to accidentally railroad because we don't even like notice or think about somebody else having something to say. So I think that signals can be really useful.
Absolutely. And that part of it is with those signals is you're going, hey, we know that we're going to get distracted, or we know that these things are going to happen, and so we're going to plan for them in advance, which is something that can really reduce that shame as well. So there are 2 microphones, one on either side. If you do have a question, now is the time to go to those microphones, and we will take some questions.
So excited.
Go forth. I want to talk to you. You all look so cool.
Go ahead, over on the right.
Hello.
Hello.
So ADHD, inattentiveness, any tips on how you stay focused when like someone's taking like a really long turn in combat, or people are talking who aren't you and you don't want to be rude and ignore them, but it's really hard to pay attention?
Doing your best. Because as someone who struggles with that constantly, like, yes, and even acknowledging like, hey, can you repeat that thing? I think normalizing the permission of it being allowed, sorry. But as everybody just starts cussing, sorry.
You first.
That kind of reminded me of the other thing I was going to say, so thank you. Something that I think can be helpful is sometimes like permission to break the unwritten rules, right? I was thinking of a campaign, like the idea of like never split the party, right? I played in a horror campaign. We split the party all the time. And nothing bad happened because of that. Bad things happened because it was a horror game. But like, if you know that you're not going to be able to maintain focus for again, it's like knowing yourself, right? Maybe you can't maintain focus for 3 or 4 hours. If it's written into the session of like, we're going to take some time where you don't have to focus because your character is literally physically not there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you know what's going on because your character is not in the room. Your character wouldn't know what's going on. To kind of build in, I mean, you should also take breaks like actively, where, especially because as the GM, right? Just because players are getting a break, you don't unless you build in that like explicit break. But sometimes knowing that you're not gonna maintain that focus, and then something else that I'm stealing from someone that I met at this convention actually, was having either a like phrase or a gesture that is a thing that reminds you of your character that you can do to come back, right? Like knowing that you might not maintain that focus, but then like, okay, my character is like very dramatic, so I'm gonna like do my character's kind of dramatic hand gesture and like lean in and bring myself back. So that might not be like maintaining your focus the entire time, but bringing it back in the moment in different ways.
I have to occupy the 5-year-old in my brain so that I can hear what's going on that I'm actually trying to do in the real world. And fidgets work well, but often I need something that is actually requires like some amount of intention and skill to do. I knit while we play D&D a lot of the time. I don't knit anything that I'm ever going to use. I have lots of 2/3 finished squares of knitted stuff all around my house. And I also paint minis of my characters while we play.
Same.
Because it requires enough attention to detail that the 5-year-old in my brain is like, oh, I'm looking at this paint, I'm only painting. And then the rest of my brain is hearing what is going on in the session. Those are my big ones.
Yeah, that was going to be my response, is that like if you are able to do something while also still listening, I am like doodling a lot of the times, and I'm typically like doodling either stuff that is actually like happening in the story or doing coloring books.
Awesome. We've got 4 minutes left, so I'm going to challenge my panelists to like 1 or 2 sentence answers, and I'm only going to let 1 or 2 of them answer.
You got it.
Over here.
Hi there. I'm a longtime player, and this later September, I'm going to be DMing for the first time.
Congratulations!
I've come to see that there is quite a bit of work involved, and I guess I'm just trying to figure out some ways I can mitigate burnout, both for myself and for my players.
I'm going to take this one. So I would think about the kind of GM you want to be. If I run games from modules, I am miserable and sad. But if I have a basic structure of what I want to happen, I have kind of NPCs, a general outline, some like lines that I could say, items to find. I find that the less structure means a little bit less prep. It also means more opportunities for kind of fun improv in the moment. That takes practice over time, so just also be prepared for it to be awkward. So I broke my own rule, but
Oh no.
that's why I'm in charge. All right, over here.
You tried.
To sort of switch this around, as a GM for folks with ADHD, who personally very much loves mysteries, and their response is, I stopped paying attention and burned down the Mall of Canada. How do I try and make sure that they're paying attention to what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm a terrible moderator. I'm jumping in again. We literally did a workshop about this on Friday. You need to find the mysteries in specific that your characters or your players care about, right? So having some conversations with them about like what is it that their character is going to be interested by and deeply cares about, and having a conversation about like, why did you burn down the mall instead of follow this mystery? Not from a either one of you did anything wrong, but like really dig into the why. And if you find that, you just have to find whatever the pieces in their brain that makes them go for it.
Building off of that, I think having your players connect, like picking a player and connecting with them on it and be like, hey, I want your character to be like a spotlight. How do we do this together? Yes. I think is a lovely thing.
Yeah, Spotlight's great too.
Any thoughts on a first-time GM trying to figure out a session 0 in terms of I know how I like my games to go as a player, but I've never GM'd before, so I don't know what I want it to look like, you know.
We start with a Google form that we send out to everybody before every session. It's like, It covers sort of like the top 15 things that would probably be triggers for most people if they had trauma related to it, and say like check off if these are things that you do not want to see, like animal death in this campaign. You do not want to see any sort of stuff like that. As well as spaces for people to say what they are uncomfortable with. And if it is we're gonna black veil this and it happens off to the side, or if it's something that happens in real life, we put all that in a Google form and email it to everybody before we ever even start talking about it in person.
There are also some great guides online. I, with a couple of co-authors, also wrote therapeutically applied role-playing games, like a literal book about how to run therapeutic games, but there is also a section in there that talks about kind of session 0 and what to cover. So that's another recommendation. So we have 32 seconds left, so for any other questions, I'm gonna put those out in the corner. I'm gonna have y'all look at this slide, but I'm gonna ask Quinn in specific because my computer and I are having words later. Quinn, where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Blue Sky and Blue Sky only, because managing more than one social media sounds like a nightmare. I am on Blue Sky at Quinn Beckham 27. I will also be around after and will happily give people my socials.
Everyone will be around after.
Yes.
Dani also has a meet and greet from 1 to 3 p.m. today, and I think does have some copies of the anti-planner here as well.
It's amazing.
If you liked this panel, please tell PAX. Can I see everyone take out their phones and at least pretend to take a screenshot or like click on this QR code? PAX does actually pay attention